I used to believe my life was ordinary. Quiet, safe, predictable. By day, I worked at the little bookstore on Main Street, arranging shelves and sipping coffee that had gone cold more times than I could count. By night, I went home to the same small apartment above the bakery, listening to the faint hum of ovens working until dawn. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. A steady rhythm that kept me from thinking too hard about the loneliness that crept in when the lights went out. But all it takes is one night to change. It was late September. The kind of evening when the air smelled like wood smoke and damp leaves. The moon hung heavy, almost too bright, casting silver across the quiet town. I had stayed late at the store counting boxes in the back, and by the time I locked up, Main Street was nearly empty. That was when I felt it. A chill not from the autumn wind, but from something else. Something watching. I told myself not to be foolish, but my steps quickened as I passed the darkened shop windows. My reflection stared back at me, pale and uneasy. And for a second, I thought I saw another figure moving behind me, tall, shadowed, silent. When I spun around, the street was empty. Only the sound of my own breath filled the air. I pressed a hand to my chest, willing my heart to slow. "Get a grip," I muttered, shaking my head. But even as I walked on, that feeling didn't leave me. It clung to my skin, like a warning dot by the time I reached my apartment. I had convinced myself it was just nerves. Maybe I had been reading too many of the Gothic novels from the store's back shelf. But the moment I slipped my key into the lock, I heard it. A low sound like a growl carried on the wind. I froze. The hairs on my arms stood straight. And for a heartbeat, I couldn't move. I turned slowly, scanning the shadows pooling in the alley across the street. At first, I saw nothing. Then, out of the darkness, two eyes caught the light. They glowed. I stumbled back against the door, my breath catching in my throat. Not human. They couldn't be. The figure stepped forward just enough for me to see the outline of a man. Broad shoulders, tall, his face hidden in shadow. But the way he moved it wasn't ordinary. Graceful, controlled, dangerous. And yet I couldn't look away. For a long moment, he just stood there watching me. Not moving closer, not speaking, just watching. My pulse hammered in my ears, but strangely, beneath the fear. Something else stirred. Curiosity. Heat. I should have gone inside, locked the door, called someone. But I didn't. Instead, I whispered, "Who are you?" The man tilted his head as if he had heard me, even from across the street. Then, almost too quietly to believe, I heard his voice. "You shouldn't be out here alone." My breath hitched. The voice was deep, smooth, threaded with something I couldn't name. It was a warning, but also a promise. I blinked, and in that instant, he was gone. The alley was empty. Silent again, as if he had never been there. Only the echo of his words remained, curling in my mind like smoke. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the old apartment made me sit up listening. Every brush of wind against the window felt like a presence pressing closer. When I finally drifted into dreams, they were filled with silver eyes and shadows that whispered my name by morning. I told myself it had been imagination, stress, nothing more. But deep down, I knew better, because something inside me had shifted. The world didn't feel ordinary anymore, and though I didn't want to admit it, part of me wanted to see him again, dangerous or not. The next day at the bookstore, everything felt strangely loud. The bell above the door rang too sharp, the turning of pages too crisp. Even the ticking of the clock on the wall felt like a hammer inside my chest. My hands shook when I shelved the new arrivals. And I kept glancing toward the window, expecting to see those glowing eyes staring back at me. But there was nothing. Just the ordinary rhythm of town life. A mother tugging her child past the shop, teenagers laughing as they walked by, an old man lingering over the newspaper. Ordinary, normal. Still, I couldn't shake him. The man from the shadows. His voice. The warning, "You shouldn't be out here alone." It was more than a warning. It had been personal, like he knew me, like he had been waiting for me. I tried to distract myself. busying my hands with receipts, stacking books higher than they needed to be. But then the bell over the door chimed, and when I looked up, the world tilted. He was there, not across the street, not hidden in shadows, right here in the middle of my bookstore, tall, broad, dressed in dark clothes that made him look even sharper under the soft glow of the lights. His presence filled the room instantly, like the air itself bent toward him. I forgot how to breathe. He didn't speak at first. He just looked at me the same way he had on the street, as though seeing straight through my skin, down to the secrets I didn't even know I had. His eyes weren't glowing now, but they were no less piercing gray with flecks of silver, stormy and alive. "Can I help you?" My voice betrayed me. It's trembling despite how hard I tried to sound calm. His lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but something close. "That depends." His voice was exactly as I remembered, low, smooth, with an edge that raised goosebumps along my arms. "Do you often walk alone at night?" My stomach flipped. I caught myself. The store was quiet, and I didn't want anyone else to hear the wildness in my voice. "You were there." He tilted his head, studying me. "You saw me." The way he said it sent a shiver down my spine, as if most people wouldn't have. As if I wasn't supposed to. I swallowed hard, gripping the counter for balance. "Why were you following me?" Something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe? Or conflict. He glanced toward the shelves, then back at me, his jaw tight. "I wasn't following you. I was making sure you were safe." Safe. The word clung to me, both comforting and frightening. Before I could ask more, the bell above the door rang again, and another customer entered, shattering the intensity between us. The man stepped back, his expression shuddered. He moved down an aisle like he was browsing, but his eyes never strayed far from me. I tried to act normal, helping the customer find a book, but my pulse thundered in my ears. Every time I glanced up, his gaze was there, steady, unyielding, watching, but not in a way that made me want to hide. Watching in a way that made me want to step closer. When the customer left, silence returned. He approached the counter again, placing a book in front of me. A collection of old folklore. Wolves, moon myths, and shadow legends. "You like these?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "They tell more truth than most people realize," he said softly. I ran my fingers over the spine, my heart thudding. "Who are you?" For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then finally, in a voice so low I almost missed it, he said, "Someone you shouldn't know." My breath caught. The words should have scared me, but instead they pulled me closer. Something inside me, something deep and wild, stirred at the sound of them before I could speak again. He leaned closer, just enough for me to feel the warmth radiating off him. His eyes locked with mine, and it was like the world narrowed to just us. "You need to be careful," he murmured. "There are things in this town, things that hunt when the moon is high. If you see eyes glowing in the dark again, run toward them." His gaze lingered on me, heavy and urgent. "Promise me." I couldn't even form the word. My lips parted, but no sound came. Then the bell rang again, and he was gone. The door swung shut behind him, the echo of his warning hanging in the air. I stood frozen, my hand pressed to the counter to steady myself. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know why he was drawn to me or why I couldn't seem to resist being drawn to him. But one thing was certain. Whatever he was hiding, it wasn't just dangerous. It was about me. That night, I couldn't sit still. His warning echoed in my mind with every breath I took. If you see eyes glowing in the dark again, don't run toward them. He had spoken as though he knew exactly what I had seen, as though he was part of it. I tried to distract myself, made tea, opened a book, even turned on the old radio in my kitchen, but nothing worked. Every sound outside made me jump. The scratch of tree branches against the window felt like claws. My own reflection in the glass startled me. By midnight, the restlessness was unbearable. I wrapped myself in a sweater and stepped onto the fire escape, letting the cool night air wash over me. The streets below were quiet. Too quiet. That was when I heard it, not the growl this time, but footsteps. Soft, steady, almost deliberate. My heart stuttered as I leaned forward, searching the shadows between the bakery and the alley. And then I saw him, the man from the store, the man from the night before. His tall frame leaned against the brick wall as if he had been waiting for me. I should have been afraid. Instead, I whispered his name, though I didn't even know it. You, his head lifted. Those storm-gray eyes caught mine in the moonlight. You shouldn't be out here, he said, his voice low but firm. Then tell me why, I shot back, surprising myself with the sharpness of my tone. Tell me what you are. Why you keep following me. Why you feel like this. The last words slipped out before I could stop them. But it was true. Every time he was near, I felt something tugging inside me, like gravity, like fate. His jaw clenched, and for a long moment, he didn't speak. Then, in a single fluid motion, he pushed away from the wall and stepped into the light. My breath caught, for the first time. I saw them clearly, the faint shimmer in his eyes, silver flecks sparking like embers. And behind him, for the briefest second, his shadow moved wrong. Rippling like fur caught in moonlight. I stumbled back, gripping the railing. You're not human. His voice was quiet, almost bitter. No, not in the way you think. The world tilted beneath me. My mouth went dry, my mind racing through every myth and story I had ever read. Wolves under the moon, eyes glowing in the dark. You're one of them, I whispered. His gaze locked onto mine, sharp and unyielding. I am. The silence between us stretched tight, filled with the sound of my own heartbeat. I should have run inside, slammed the door, called for help. But instead, I stayed frozen. Caught between terror and something far more dangerous. Because even knowing what he was, I didn't want to look away. Why me? I asked, my voice breaking. Why do you keep coming back? His expression shifted, raw and unguarded, as if he was fighting a war inside himself. Finally, he said, because you're mine. The words punched the air from my lungs. Yours. Fated, he breathed, his eyes blazing with a hunger I felt in my bones. The bond pulled me to you the moment I saw you. I tried to stay away, tried to protect you, but I can't. The world spun around me. A part of me wanted to deny it, to scream that it wasn't possible. But another part deeper, Wilda recognized it. That pull I had felt, that fire that flared when his eyes met mine, it wasn't imagination. It was real. I don't understand, I whispered. You're human, he said. And being tied to me puts you in danger you can't imagine. My kind. We don't get to love freely. Bonds like this are forbidden. If they find out, he broke off, shaking his head, they'll come for you. Fear clawed at my chest, but underneath it, something stronger stirred. Defiance, desire. Then let them, I said before I could stop myself. I'm not afraid of you. His eyes softened, but his voice was rough with restraint. You should be. He stepped closer, the air between us thick with something I couldn't name. My pulse raced, every nerve in my body screaming both warning and want. For a heartbeat, I thought he would kiss me. His hand lifted, fingers trembling as if fighting against some invisible chain. His touch hovered near my face, close enough for me to feel his heat. Then a sound tore through the night. A howl, low, haunting, too close. His entire body tensed. His eyes snapped toward the darkened street, then back to me. Urgency burned in his voice. They found us, before I could speak. He grabbed my hand, pulling me from the fire escape into the shadows below. His grip was strong, unyielding, but not painful. For the first time, I realized he wasn't just protecting me from what was out there. He was protecting me from his own world. And now, there was no going back. The night swallowed us as he pulled me through the narrow alleys behind the bakery. His hand locked around mine. His grip was fierce, protective, as though letting go meant losing me forever. My lungs burned. My heart raced, but I didn't ask questions. The sound behind us was enough to howl, deep and violent, echoing through the streets like a warning. When we finally stopped, he pressed me against the wall of an old brick building, his chest heaving. The silver in his eyes shimmered in the moonlight. "They're closer than I thought," he said, his voice low, ragged. "Who?" I whispered, though part of me already knew. He hesitated, jaw tightening. "Hunters. And wolves that don't care about bonds. If they sense what we are to each other, they'll destroy you just to break me." The word bond burned through me. My body reacted before my mind caught up, heat flooding my chest, my pulse beating against my skin like it was trying to break free. "You keep saying that," I whispered, "but I don't understand what it means." His hand lifted, trembling slightly as he cupped my cheek. His touch was warm, grounding, yet electric enough to steal my breath. "It means I was born knowing you," he said, his voice breaking with raw honesty. "Even before I saw you, you were written into me. You're my fated mate." The world tilted. I wanted to deny it, to shove it away as madness, but the truth was already alive inside me. I had felt it from the very first moment, his eyes pulling me in, the ache in my chest when he was near, the way every cell in my body screamed that I belonged to him. "No," I whispered, though tears burned my eyes. "That can't be real." "It is." His thumb brushed away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. "I tried to reject it, for your sake, to keep you safe. But the bond doesn't care about rules, or fear, or fate. It only knows what it wants. And what it wants." His eyes locked on mine, burning with fire and torment. "Is you?" My breath caught. Every instinct screamed at me to push him away, to protect myself from something I didn't understand. But instead, my body betrayed leaned closer, my lips parting, my heart racing toward him as if it had been waiting for this moment all my life. And then it happened. His mouth met mine. A kiss was fire and storm all at once, dangerous and consuming. My knees buckled as heat spread through me. My wolf war, maybe his howling, somewhere deep inside my chest. It wasn't just a kiss. It was recognition, a claiming, a truth that wrapped itself around my soul and refused to let go. When he finally pulled away, his forehead rested against mine, his breath rough. "You weren't supposed to feel it," he whispered. "Not this soon. Not like this." I did. I breathed. My hands trembled as they clutched his shirt, unwilling to let go. I do. For a single heartbeat, we stayed like that, connected, raw, unshaken by the world outside. But then a sound split the air. A snarl. Close. Too close. His head snapped toward the alley's mouth, and his entire body shifted, shoulders broadening, muscles tightening. His wolf just beneath the surface. "Stay behind me," he ordered. Voice laced with authority that made my bones obey even as fear tore through me. From the shadows, figures emerged. Not men, not fully. Wolves with eyes like burning coals. Their growls vibrating through the ground beneath my feet. 3 of them, my stomach dropped. The man, my mate, stepped forward, shielding me completely. His hands clenched into fists, and for the first time I saw the wolf in him rise, rippling under his skin, ready to strike. One of the creature's snarled words through half-shifted jaws. "You broke the law, Adrian. A human mate is forbidden, Adrian." His name got my heart twisted as the wolves advanced. His body tensed, and in the glow of the moon I realized the truth. He wasn't just protecting me from danger. He was protecting me from his own world, a world that would never allow us to exist. "Together, run when I tell you," he muttered under his breath, never taking his eyes off the wolves. I shook my head, my throat tight. "I'm not leaving you." His gaze flicked back to me for a split second, stormy and desperate. "If you stay, they'll kill you." And then, before I could answer, the largest wolf lunged, its claws flashing in the moonlight. Adrian moved, and in the space of a heartbeat, his body shifted before my eyes. Bones cracked, fur tore through skin, his roar splitting the night as he transformed into something massive, powerful, and terrifyingly beautiful. My fated mate wasn't just a man. He was the beast itself. The world shattered in front of me. Adrian's body had torn apart and reformed in an instant, flesh giving way to fur. bones snapping and reshaping, his roar exploding into the night like thunder. He wasn't a man anymore. He was a wolf. Enormous, powerful silver-gray fur bristling under the moonlight. His eyes, the same stormy gray I had come to know, burned with fury. And yet, even as terror raced through my veins, I knew him. This wasn't a stranger. This was still him. The three wolves circling us snarled, their bodies tense, ready to strike. The largest one lunged first, claws flashing. Adrian met him midair, the sound of their collision splitting the night. Teeth snapped, claws tore. It's a fight unfolding with a violence I had never imagined. I stumbled back, pressing against the wall, my chest heaving. Every instinct screamed for me to run, but my legs wouldn't move. My heart was tethered to Adrian. Every slash of claws against his body ripping through me like it was my own flesh. Another wolf charged. Adrian swung around, teeth sinking into its shoulder, tossing it aside with brutal strength. But the third slipped past him, eyes locked on me. I gasped, frozen as it barreled toward me, its growl rattling my bones. At the last second, Adrian intercepted his massive body shielding mine. The wolf's claws raked across his side instead of tearing into me. Adrian's pain snarl split the air and something inside me broke. I couldn't just stand there. No. The word ripped from my throat as I grabbed the nearest thing I could, a broken piece of wood from the alley floor. My hand shook, but I raised it anyway, holding it like a weapon. Stay away from him. The wolves paused, their glowing eyes flicking toward me, surprised. A human standing her ground. Adrian growled low, blood matting his fur, but he didn't step aside. He wouldn't let them touch me, even if it killed him. And in that moment, the truth struck me with brutal clarity. If I did nothing, they would destroy him. They would destroy us. I had to choose. Run and save myself. Or fight, even if it meant being torn apart. My voice trembled, but I forced the words out. If you want him, you'll have to go through me. The wolves stilled. One of them snarled, low and bitter. You'd die for him. A beast. I met its gaze, heart hammering. No, I'd die for him. For Adrian, something shifted then. The wolves hesitated, their rage flickering into something sharper fear. Not of me, but of what my words meant. A human claiming a wolf. A bond too deep to be broken. Adrian moved then faster than I could follow. With a roar that shook the night, he slammed into the leader, tearing him down. The others scattered, their snarls fading as they fled into the shadows. Leaving the alley thick with silence, I dropped the wood, my knees giving out. My chest heaved, my hands trembling violently. Adrian turned to me, blood streaking his fur, his sides rising and falling with ragged breaths. His eyes still, his eyes met mine. And I felt everything at once, fear, relief, love. Then, before my eyes, his body shifted again. The fur receded, bones reshaped, claws dissolved back into hands. And there he was, Adrian, human once more. Though battered and bleeding, his chest bare and streaked with scars. He staggered, and I rushed forward, catching him before he could fall. His weight pressed against me, heavy and real. You should have run, he whispered, his voice rough with pain. I couldn't, I said, tears spilling down my cheeks. Don't you understand? I'd rather die with you than live without you. His eyes closed briefly, as though my words cut deeper than any wound. When he opened them again, his hand found mine, gripping tightly. Then you've doomed yourself, he said softly, his voice breaking. Because after tonight, they'll never stop hunting you. The words pierced through me, heavy with truth. He was right. By standing with him, I had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. His world would not forgive it, and yet, even with terror clawing at my chest, I knew my choice. I pressed my forehead against his, our breaths mingling. Then let them come. As long as I'm with you, I don't care. For a heartbeat, he looked at me like I was the only thing left in the world. And in that gaze, I saw Ichabod, fierce, unyielding, eternal. But before I could speak again, a new sound split the silence, a chorus of howls. louder, closer, more than before. My blood ran cold. This wasn't over. The fight had only begun. The howls echoed through the night like a storm of death. Adrian's grip on my hand tightened. His eyes locked on mine. His body was weak from the fight, but his spirit wild, unbroken, burned in those storm-gray eyes. "They're coming," he said, his voice low. "More than I can fight this time." Fear clawed at my chest, but so did something else, something stronger. I had already made my choice. There was no going back. "Then we don't fight alone," I whispered. His jaw tightened. "You don't understand. If they find you with me, you won't survive. They'll see you as a traitor, a weakness." I lifted his face with trembling hands, forcing him to meet my gaze. "I'm not your weakness, Adrian. I'm your strength. And you're mine." For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then the howls grew louder, the ground trembling under the weight of approaching paws. Adrian's body shifted again. Fur and bone and muscle exploding into the massive wolf I'd seen before. Silver gray, bloodied, magnificent. He placed himself between me and the sound, his stance defiant, ready. But I wasn't about to hide behind him. Not anymore. I stepped forward, my voice shaking but firm. "If you want him," I shouted into the night, "you'll have to take me too." The pack burst into view shadows with teeth, eyes glowing like fire. They circled us, growls vibrating through the ground. I braced myself, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. And then something unexpected happened. The wolves didn't strike. They hesitated. Their growls faltered. One of them, larger than the rest, stepped forward. His fur was black as midnight, his eyes gold and ancient dot. The alpha dot, his gaze cut through me, sharp and merciless. "A human standing beside a wolf," he growled, voice low and commanding. "You defy our laws," Adrian snarled, ready to lunge. But the alpha raised his head, silencing the pack with a single sound. Then his gaze shifted back to me. "You claim him?" he asked, his voice heavy with disbelief. My knees shook, but I lifted my chin. "Yes, I claim him. I love him." The pack stirred, growls rising, but the alpha silenced them again. He studied me, long and unblinking. Then, slowly, he stepped back. "A bond like this," he said, almost to himself, "cannot be broken. Not by clause. Not by law." The pack froze, uncertain. The alpha's eyes flicked to Adrian, then back to me. Finally, he gave a short, sharp nod. "You walk a cursed path. But it is yours to walk. From this night forward, you are no longer prey." And with that, he turned. The others followed their shadows, melting back into the forest. In moments, the night was silent again. I stood trembling, the weight of what had just happened sinking into my bones. They had spared us. They had recognized us. Adrian shifted back into his human form, collapsing to his knees, blood streaking his chest. I dropped beside him, tears blurring my vision. "You're hurt," I whispered. Pressing my hands against the wound at his side, he caught my wrist gently, his touch warm despite his weakness. "I'll heal," he murmured. His eyes found mine, soft and fierce all at once. "But you saved me tonight." I shook my head, tears falling freely now. "We saved each other." He smiled, faint but real, and leaned forward until our foreheads touched. The chaos, the blood, the fear, all melted away. There was only him, us, Dot, for the first time. I felt the bond between us like fire in my veins. It wasn't just love. It was something older, deeper, unshakable, Dot. And yet I knew the truth. This wasn't the end. The world wouldn't simply let us live in peace. There would be whispers, dangers, shadows waiting in the trees. Our path would always be hard. But as I looked into Adrian's storm-gray eyes, I realized something. I wasn't afraid anymore. Because love like this didn't bow to fear. It didn't end with blood or law. It burned brighter than death itself. Adrian brushed a hand against my cheek, his voice raw but steady. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." "Yes," I breathed. "Together." The first hint of dawn broke the horizon, then soft light spilling into the alley. It touched his face, turning his gray eyes silver, his scars into something almost holy. And in that light, I knew this was not the end of our story. It was only the beginning.